Greetings, everybody. Time to do a new character. Is it worth the stones? And yeah, cue the music. So here we are, President Shinra, Mr. Rufus, however you want to address him. He's here. He is in the game. He is a new Lightning Elemental 100 cost character, and it's the month of May. It's an important month to me for a bunch of reasons. So let's do a poll. Let's do a poll and see if we get him. Oh wait, we can't. We can't, can we? That's right. You, dear viewers, decided early on this year that I am not allowed to do any polls for a character of lightning or fire element. So, damn. Oh well. Okay. All right. Nothing we can do here. I guess moving on. Let's just talk about the character. Sad, right? I know, but let's see if he is even worth considering. Also, it seems like my saved location is gone that I normally use, so it's a little bit of a frustrating day for old Umbra. Anyway, President Rufus Shinra. So here we can see him in a lightning-based party, and yeah, he's looking pretty darn good if we were to compare to another offensive character in the same party. He's doing quite well in terms of stats and everything like that. Very, quickly noted, no Hermes sandals, still a 113 speed, HP 11k, which for a range-based character kind of makes sense. 1926 attack, also really good. We also have some defense, some spirit, a little bit of accuracy, bunch of single target resistance, less AoE resistance, and then 2 move, 1 jump, and that is being affected by. So we got a bunch of details here. We also can see resistances being pretty net positive. Yeah, but since we're not doing any polls, I guess we should just go back to regular music, right? Okay, so monkey business time. 25% slashing resistance, 3% pierce, 23 shooting, 13 for shooting, 3 for pierce, 31% for, and a bunch of elemental resistances or status resistances. I'll get there. Code resistance, paralyzed resistance, blind resistance, poison resistance, but that's mostly because of the party that we have. So let's switch down and just take a look at the same kind of setup and how it scales when we don't have as much support. But you know, I mean, like some extra speed, VCs, 114, 9,000 HP, still pretty respectable for a gunner like this. 1800 attack. Attack has survived very, very well here. And single target resistance is still quite nice. Taking a look at resistances, I mean, yeah, it holds up pretty well even on a unoptimized party like this. No curse resistance, which could be a little bit scary. Slow resistance is also down. And I mean, he has a nice wide range of stuff, but I do feel like he is missing some of the more key things, which would generally be considered quite nice. So weapon, taking a look at this, once again, just for Rufus Shinra, makes sense. Rufus is basically, this is standard for the Rebirth characters. Rebirth characters have gotten all their own exclusive weapons, highly focused around themselves and only themselves. And that's not terrible, but I do feel like probably this would have been nice if it could have also been on some other gunners, since other gunners could use, you know, a little bit of a boost. Critical damage up of 15, cancels haste when attacking a target, which is just really nice to have. And when a critical hit occurs, reduce target type's chain resistance for 3 turns. So a pretty affecting gun. As for our Trust Mastery here, nothing particularly that great. It is also clothing, which is, you know, can be equipped by multiple different characters, but it's our less favorite of the types of Trust Master. Good effect though, 40% attack boost for self, debuff effect weakening of 30, both of those for 4 turns, and grants the effect for self of decreasing single target resistance by 15 for 3 turns for 4 turns. So nice thing for Rufus Shinra here, or any single target attacker that can equip clothing. But other than that, probably isn't going to be the thing that this character is most remembered for. And really quickly, just going to interject before we look at the kit and what makes the kit really good. I do want to say that he has been essentially reviewed. He is reviewing quite highly compared to some other characters. Just like Elena, he is up in that tier. He hasn't been quite put as high as Zack yet, but we'll see how it changes since very early on. And it is tentative. Alright. Master ability, defense penetration of 30, reaction block rate of 20, dream ability, human killer, accuracy up of 20, and critical rate of 15. Also, critical human killer is extra by 15. Commander effects, interesting. Wotv Calc is now finally listing commander effects, so we can see the exact percentages. Physical damage up 6% for ally, single target resistance of 6, luck of 9%, elemental chain resistance of 12, and for the EX effect, physical damage of 4%, single target resistance of 4. Or wait, no, that's a lower one. But basically, the lightning element will get that. It's the one below it that I'm looking. Increase reaction block rate of 40 for 5 turns. Decrease AP consumption by 25 for 5 turns for allies, and grants the effect of a 200% chance of CT up for 3 turns for 5 turns. Pretty nice commander ability, and it makes sense, as a president of a company probably should be able to do that kind of stuff quite well for his employees. Looking at support skills are really great for a range character. First off, range increase of 2 permanently is just really nice. 24% attack boost, defense penetration of 40, single target resistance of 40, single target resistance penetration of 40, sorry. Physical damage and magical damage, 40% reduction for self. Remove when 3 attacks happen. So that's quite a bit of survivability for a range character. Now, really quickly, let's just look at the alternatives for his support skills before we talk about the other one. So his subs have a range and accuracy increase, a attack and AP consumption, attack increase and AP consumption decrease, a decrease of skill activation time, as well as missile attack increase, and HP and elemental resistance. It's some good options for a character like this, but this one is probably the one that you absolutely want. Well, it's an agility increase, it's a physical and magical distance-based increase, so basically just more survivability on top of what he already has in his other one, and a decrease in movement is just really nice for keeping this character away from the offensive front lines and doing a lot of damage from a distance. Taking a look, counter ability, while I do think the supports are pretty much spoken for quite nicely, counter on the other hand, his main counter is a chance to counter all damage, and has, again, can be range increased, which is really, really nice and everything, and it is a preemptive counter, which is in line with what he is like in Rebirth and Remake. However, his sub-job does have reflex, so 15% chance to just evade physical or magical attacks. That's the one that I would probably recommend, but I could see people also liking a preemptive counter since he's very offensive, so both are generally here. Looking at limit burst, we do have his full limit burst details now. It's select 2 targets, 200% chance for 20% physical damage increase for 3 turns for self, 240 mod, knockback 100% chance by 1 square, 67% chance to inflict stun, decreases attack and magic by 30% for 3 turns, and agility by 20% for 3 turns, while also decreasing hate by 6. High range on this, it can be range expanded. I do expect this to be really, really good for him, and almost always going to be a high priority. It does have a 49 AP cost, but I don't think that's super unlikely that he won't be able to do it relatively quickly. So, looking at his sub-jobs, his main one does have an ability that can inflict blind, which is kind of interesting, but he's not super evady, and I can't really see him being on an evady team, at least not yet. Other one is just straight damage, but it is a triple hitter, so it is some nice chaining if you need access to chaining abilities. Ranger basically has casting time on all of its abilities and an evasion rate increase, so other than poison, not particularly that interested in Ranger. As for Axe Knight does have a self-heal, but I would need to see if his AI can actually do it. Also has a defense increase, strike resistance, and elemental chain resistance, which would help him with survivability. But maybe the more interesting one for his Axe Knight is the reduced physical damage taken by 7,500 HP barrier, with a attack increase of 40% and agility of increase of 25. Quite like that one as opposed to anything else, and I probably would recommend Axe Knight as his sub job. Into his main job, however, thankfully lots of great abilities here. Pretty much everything on here is range increasable. So let's get through the first one, which has a 30% chance increase for hitting a target. It is a straight line. Decreases AP by 15 for target, so it's pretty good. Almost going to be at the end of the fight, but if you're decreasing AP, hard to say whether or not that'll be really, really good, since probably by that point it could make some differences, but I'm not going to say it's completely reliable. This one, increased reaction block rate by 50, range increased by 1 for both of those for 4 turns, auto restore of 10% AP per turn for 4 turns for self, physical damage and magical damage distance-based resistances off of this as well, and when friendly target is within range, cast another ability for himself. And just checking on the actual spelling for that, so it is a follow-up attack with a 100% chance for knockback of the target by 1 square, which, cool. I mean, honestly, that's really nice to just, once again, play the range game, and this is the kind of thing that I think range actually does need. There's a lot of good units, however, out there with powerful, fairly high-ranged abilities as well. But if it makes enough of a difference, and from what I've seen with Maeve, Yuna, and Elena, it is more than possible that this could just end up working out for Rufus Shinra being very strong and actually pushing range into a very good place currently. Alright, next ability, grants Protect, grants Shell for allies as well for 4 turns, reduces magical damage taken the larger the AoE size for 4 turns for allies as well, grants the effect of minus 15% missile resistance when an attack hits for himself or allies, and 200% chance for auto revive. It grants the effect of removing Protect, or Protect removal, as well as Shell removal for 4 turns, which is very interesting since that can be used for multiple different characters that also use Protect and Shell. So quite interesting whether or not that'll be super good. Alright, this is just our basic attack. We already looked at that. So next up, our straight line. Dispel, ignore fatal damage for target 165 mod. When the target is automatically killed, also gives a CT boost for himself. That CT boost is 200 for each enemy kill up to 2. So he can get a 400 CT increase if the stars align and the enemies align, but probably, again, not very likely. Now this ability that we are looking at here upgrades twice. You can select up to 2 targets, dispel physical distance-based resistance, decrease physical base resistance by 3 to 8, and 200% mod on this decreases AP by 15, and a 50% chance to poison the target. And it is a multi-hitter, which is kind of interesting, since it's if you are just kind of looking for more chaining options, he does have it. And our last job level 12 ability, decrease debuff effect weakening by 50 for just this cast, 200% damage, piercing damage, well, 100% chance to knock back target by 2 squares, decrease missile resistance by 30% for 3 turns at the start for the enemy, and decrease movement for the enemy by 1 for 3 turns. Rufus Shinra feels like the type of gunner that probably should have always happened. I think that he is insanely good for having multiple range, auto restore, a lot of resistances, and everything that you would expect for a character to have. Honestly, if it wasn't for the HP difference, he would feel much like a modern attacker, just in gunning form. In combination with the follow-up attacks as well, that I think shooting will be able to chain together with Yuna and Elena, I think that I 100% am all for a all-shooting team with this character. And yes, he might still be good in others just because he seems really, really powerful and he can enable some stuff long before your characters get over there. But I do think that he is going to really hit it off with just follow-up attacks as well, since he already seems quite powerful, and these extra attacks on top of his regular strong attacks should be enough to get him there. But anyway, do I think he's worth the stones? Absolutely. I actually think he is way better than I thought he was going to be, at least on paper. Now, how he will shape up in the meta, where Karsha exists and Zac exists, and there are some really, really good teams already out there, and whether or not shooting resistance, on new VCs in the future will kind of just push these characters out. Possibly. We'll keep an eye on it, but I think at least for right now, looking fantastic. Thanks so much for watching.